Hello, my dear students. Welcome to Al Private School Virtual Learning Classes. Today we have a comprehension lesson. In the beginning, let's revise the elements of the story. So the first one here is the author. Who's the author? The author is the person who wrote the story. So the author writes the story. The author writes the story. Look at the illustration here. He has a pencil. That means he wrote the story. The author is the person who writes the story. The illustrator is the person who draws the pictures. The illustrator draws the pictures. She has a crayon because she draws the pictures. Here we have the title. What's the title? The title is the name of the book. The title is the name of the book. Like, what's the title of our story this week? It's Maria Celebrate Brazil. The setting of the story, it's where the story takes place. It will talk about the place and the time. So now let's talk about Maria Celebrate Brazil. In the beginning of the story, they said they were in their hot, bright kitchen. So the story happened in the kitchen. Then she went to practices and she went to the parade, and the parade happened in the street. And when did that happen? When we talk about the time, that's mean day or night. You can say, for example, winter or summer. We can say, talk about the season. The characters are the people or animals in the story. Who are the characters in Maria Celebrate Brazil? She and her mother and her father. Her mother and father is her parents. The plot is the events in the story. That's mean what happened in the beginning, what happened at the beginning, what happened in the middle, and what happened at the end. What happened at the beginning of the story? Maria, she was sad or she was disappointed because she wanted to visit her friend, because her friend, I think her name is Anna, invited her to her house, but her parents, she wanted her to go to practice, and they told her that they didn't force her, but they persuade or convince her to go to the practices. They told her the period is very important because it will tell all the world about our traditions and about our culture. What happened at the end? She went to practice and she got her costume and went to the parade, and she was very happy. What's the conflict of the story? The conflict is the problem that the character faced. So what was her problem? Because her problem was in Maria Celebrate Brazil. She wanted to go to visit her friend because her friend invited her, but her parents wanted her to go to practice for the parade. So what's the problem? The conflict is the problem of the story. What's the resolution? The resolution is how did they solve this problem? It's the solution for the problem. The solution, what did she decide? She said, you're right, my dad, I'm going to go to the practice. I will apologize to my friend and I will tell her that I will come later. Now let's talk about the genre of the story. Then we're going to talk about the elements of the story again. The genre of the story is realistic fiction. What's the meaning of realistic fiction? So Maria Celebrate Brazil is realistic fiction. We took that before and we revised it many times. So what's the meaning of realistic fiction? It's a made-up story. It has real characters and events, or the characters and events can be exist in the real life. It has beginning, middle, and end. It has illustrations and dialogue. What's the meaning of dialogue? The dialogue is a conversation between two or more than two people. Now, let's revise the story elements. Here we have the author. He's the person who wrote the story. The illustrator, he's the person who draws the picture. The title is the name of the story. The setting Where did the story takes place? The time and the place. The characters, the people and animals in the story, the plot, what happened in the beginning, at the beginning, middle, and at the end. The conflict is the problem in the story or the problem that the character face, and the resolution is the solution of the problem. Here we have the genre of the story. The genre of our story is realistic fiction. Here we have two words, realistic and fiction. Realistic means real and fiction means something like fantasy. So here it's a made-up story. It has made-up characters and events, but it could happen in the real life. We will not talk about all of them here, or let's talk about them. It's not a real session, so I have time. So what's the fantasy story? The fantasy story is a made-up story, but it has imaginary characters or events, like talking animals, like magical powers or superheroes. So it can't happen in the real life. It can't happen in the real life. It's a made-up story, but it can't happen in the real life because it has imaginary characters and imaginary events. What is the reality? The reality is a story with events that can happen in the real life. Okay, now get your turn practice book and open page number 13. I'm going to open my page. I think it's different in the book. Yes, no, it's the same. It's page number 13. Read the passage, use the visualize strategy to picture in your mind what's happening in the story. What's the meaning of visualize strategy? That means to imagine what happened in the passage, to close your eyes, for example, or without closing your eyes, but imagine the setting of the story, the characters, and the events, like playing a video inside your head. So, the food festival. Van and his family went to local food festival. Van's eyes opened wide. He was amazed at how this quiet street had been changed. On each side, food booths were set up showing colorful flags. We knew a few. There was Mexico and there was China. Van followed his mom, dad, and his sister down the street. Mom stopped at the first booth. People were selling Greek salad there. Van's family shared a big plate of salad. Then they walked to the Chinese booth. They had the beef noodle soup. The beef noodle soup. Okay, now turn your page. Or let's explain it, then we're going to complete the reading. So what happened here? Van and his family went to a local food festival. What's the meaning of local? Something nearby. It's very near to their house. It's nearby, okay? Or in the neighborhood, maybe. So here Van's eyes open wide because he felt surprised. He was amazed at how this quiet street, it was a quiet street, how this quiet street had been changed. It changed. There were booths in each side were set up showing colorful flags. What's the meaning of booths here? The booths are a small temporary tent or structure. They use it for selling food or maybe other materials, not only food. And it has here, or they have, colorful flags. You can imagine that. Look at here. You can imagine all these booths here with colorful flags here. They are not colorful, but you can imagine them like that. Okay. Here, he knew a few. He knew few of them. There was Mexico and there was China. Van followed his mom. He followed them, his family, his mom, dad, and sister down the street. Mom, she stopped at the first booth. People were selling a Greek salad there. What did they eat? They ate Greek salad. Van's family shared a big plate of salad. Then, what's the meaning of share? They ate it together. Then they walked to the Chinese booth. They had the beef noodle soup. So, in the first booth, they ate here big plate of salad. Then this is the first one. First, okay. Then what did they do? Here first booth, but it's the first step also. Then they walk to the Chinese booth. What did they eat? What did they eat there? They eat beef noodle soup. Now turn your page to see what happened next. The next stop was in the Indian booth for spicy curry. At the Mexican booth, they all had tamales. At last, so in the beginning, they ate salad, then noodle soup, then spicy curry, then tamales. Okay. At last, the family reached, or we can say tamales. Okay. It's a Mexican dish. At last, the family reached the end of the street. Everyone was full. What's the meaning of full? They eat many things and they can't eat anything more. They can't eat anything more. Okay, which food did you like the best? Asked Dad. The family members all spoke at once. The curry, the tamales, the beef noodle soup, and I like the Greek salad best. So they talked together. The curry said Van, the tamales said his sister, the beef noodle soup, Mom said, and the dad said, and I like the Greek salad best, said Dad with a smile. I guess we can agree that all the food here is delicious. Now turn your page, open page number 15. Okay, reread the passage and answer the questions. You can stop the video or pause it to read it again by yourselves, okay? Then you can turn it on to complete and answer the questions with me. The first question, who were the characters in the story? The characters in the story were Van, his sister, Mom, and Dad, right? Because here in the beginning, they said Van and his family. And then they said he followed his mom, dad, and his sister. So they are the people in the story. So who were the characters in the story? The characters in the story were Van, his sister, mom, and dad. Where did the story take place? Where did it happen? Let's look at here. They said it happened here. They said local food festival. That's mean it's nearby. It's beside their house. And they said in a quiet street. So you would say the story took place on a quiet street near where Van and his family lived. How did we know it's near to them? Because they said it's local. So where did the story take place? The story took place on a quiet street near where Van and his family lived. What event took place at the beginning of the story? What happened at the beginning of the story? Look at here. What happened? Then, oh, I need the pencil. Okay. Van and his family went to the local food festival. This is the first event, or the first thing happened in the story. So Van and his family went to the local food festival. Now turn your page, open page number 18. Okay. Okay, let's complete the title of the text, not a story, it's a short story maybe. Two kinds of football. Tim and Victoria agreed to play football with their families. Tim said, I brought a football. Victor said, I brought a soccer football. Soccer is called football in many countries. They learn to play two kinds of football. Look at the illustrator here, okay? Answer the questions about the text. How do you know this text is realistic fiction? How did you know that? We know that because there are real characters, like there are real people or real characters. So this story could happen in the real life, right? What happens in the beginning of the story? What happened? Tim and Victor, no? Yes, here. Tim and Victor agreed to play football with their families. What happened in the middle of the story? Tim brought a football, Victor brought a soccer ball. What happened at the end? They play two kinds of football. So let's answer them again. How did you know this text is realistic fiction? It's a made-up story. The characters are like real people and events could really happen in the real life. It has beginning, middle, and end. What happens at the beginning of the story? Tim and Victor agree to play football with their families. What happens in the middle? Tim brings a football and Victor brings a soccer ball. What happens at the end? The families play both soccer and football. Thank you for listening and see you later in the next session. Inshallah. Goodbye.